an alien spacecraft appeared over the United States, and the strange phenomenon immediately caught everyone's attention. At this time, the spaceship rotated in a peculiar way. It first flew over the bustling city, then headed towards the sparse mountains and then landed on a flat grassland. The vibration generated by the landing directly opened up waves of sand holes, and the entire alien spaceship rapidly began to deform and crystallize, which seemed to follow some peculiar pattern. Scientists have analyzed that this type of crystal has been transmitting signals to outer space, and the location of the signal is on a large asteroid located 1 billion light-years away from Earth. The authorities immediately dispatched a Xinjiang spacecraft to the planet, hoping to negotiate and understand the intentions of the aliens. The captain, who had been dormant for a month, was suddenly awakened by someone. The woman then summoned the artificial intelligence system of the spacecraft, and they had already deviated from the scheduled route at this moment. The position of the previously observed big scrolls was incorrect. They were misled by the light refracted by this dark matter field, and the equipment on Earth did not detect and print it in advance. Artificial intelligence suggested that the spacecraft directly pass through the dark matter area, but the captain decided to navigate around it in a safe and secure way because they carried the hope of 8 billion humans on Earth. The first contact between humans and aliens is about to officially awaken. The captain then ordered artificial intelligence to wake up other crew members, and then walked to the control room to observe this strange celestial phenomenon. At this time, the spacecraft had already begun to approach the area of the dark fog control field. The captain then issued a new command to the awakened crew members. However, when the interstellar spacecraft flew into the area of the dark fog field, a sudden burst of solar flares caused the spacecraft to shake quite a bit, and just as the co-captain thought these were just minor issues, the even more violent shaking almost caused everyone to fall. At this time, the spacecraft was affected by the gravitational pull of dark matter, and the captain immediately ordered a change in its current orbit. However, Captain Fu felt that finding another route was enough to bypass it. However, another shaking directly caused several people to fall to the ground. The spacecraft left the dark matter orbit under the command of the captain, but surprisingly, the co-captain dismissed him from his position on the grounds that the captain threatened the mission. The man then nodded to his subordinates and gave new instructions. The captain, facing the betrayed crew, was the first to knock down one person, and then kicked the co-captain with a flying leg, causing him to stumble. Women who have practiced martial arts can easily crush these few little karami. However, the despicable co-captain actually stole some blood from behind. The woman was injected with an anesthetic by him and then put into a hibernation chamber by several people. Dormancy. The co-captain then ordered artificial intelligence to bring the spacecraft closer to the orbit of dark matter, and the spacecraft's protective cover was also opened under its benefit. The interstellar spacecraft quickly entered the position orbit of dark matter. In just a moment, dark matter celestial bodies erupted into sea-level flares. Artificial intelligence believes they should change the course, but the stubborn co-captain still insists on his decision. The interstellar spacecraft was hit by flames during its journey, and everyone experienced another violent jolt. The deputy captain then ordered the start of superluminal navigation, but the deputy said that just now, in order to resist the flash, the energy of the thrusters was depleted by the protective cover, and then the spacecraft was hit by another flash. Artificial intelligence reports that the spacecraft's protective cover has failed, and their thruster energy has been completely depleted. The spaceship experienced another violent jolt, and a device on the spaceship was finally overloaded and exploded. The crew had no choice but to wake up the dormant captain. The second explosion directly threw the two to the ground. The captain, who ran over, immediately ordered emergency measures, and the matter between him and the co-captain was prepared to come out later. The captain then ordered the crew to activate the spacecraft system at any cost, and after a series of orders were issued, he ordered his subordinates to take control of the co-captain. As the man threw something, he first kicked, then punched, and a combination of attacks, already controlling the co-captain. The captain then arrived at the observation deck and activated the manual driving system. At the same time, the extraterrestrial festival crystals, which had been dormant for a month, finally had a movement. The aliens provided feedback on a Mozart serenade, and scientists finally understood that aliens transmit signals through low-frequency infrasound waves. At this time, the interstellar spacecraft was no longer at risk of explosion, but the spacecraft's power and communication systems were all damaged. The captain issued an order to repair the interstellar spacecraft as much as possible, but when he was working with the co-captain on the repair work, the man took advantage of his lack of attention and unexpectedly found a handful of 5 chi. Just as he wanted to ambush a woman, he was kicked out by the captain with a kick. The lieutenant captain, who had a single heart, went to the northwest with a hidden hatred, and their troubles had just begun. The spaceship not only suffered complete damage to its power and communication systems, but also had problems with the prepared oxygen module. At this time, the oxygen in the cabin became increasingly scarce. One crew member fell directly to the ground due to lack of oxygen, and artificial intelligence analysis of oxygen only took 5 hours. The crew proposed finding a comet to solve the problem, which could electrolyze oxygen and hydrogen by capturing ice blocks. The captain immediately ordered the search for nearby planets with water, but the crew's search yielded no results at all. As they watched them fall into a desperate situation, the crew remembered the way to search for the light spot, which could be a planet. But if not, then they have only one dead end. Artificial intelligence analyzed the 8 planets found and then selected one of the dark red planets. Fortunately, this planet actually has its own atmosphere. The captain immediately captured a small spaceship flying towards this planet, and several crew members landed smoothly on it. However, looking around, there was no sign of any water origin. While searching and exploring, they accidentally discovered a cave in the mountains. They walked deep into the cave wearing spacesuits and finally found ore containing oxygen inside. The 2 crew members immediately began mining, but the oxygen exhaled by the woman made the eye guard stand up, and he then took out an instrument to analyze the composition of the surrounding atmosphere. The woman actually opened her protective cover directly afterwards. The frightened companion loudly questioned him what he was doing, and the man, after reading the analysis, also opened the protective cover. But what they didn't know was that this move would take their lives in the future. The other crew member then took the collected ore back to prepare, and they need to continue mining here. However, when he came out with the collected ore, the man was hit by flying debris on his body. The distant valley was about to erupt with magma, and the crew immediately contacted the spacecraft to inform them of the situation. In just a moment, the magma officially erupted in the geological strata. Several people on the spaceship were shocked by the situation before them, and the 2 crew members immediately grabbed something and ran towards the spaceship. However, analyzing the 2 people mining in karst caves using artificial intelligence can only lead to a dead end in this situation. At this moment, the 2 of them had just walked out of the cave, and when they looked up, they also noticed the magma erupting in the distance. The woman called for the spaceship, but they couldn't reach each other at all. The man looked up and found that the interstellar spacecraft had already flown off the ground. The 2 of them now understood that they might have been abandoned by the captain. The man was knocked down by a stone again while complaining. At this moment, a small spaceship flew straight towards the 2 people. After discovering the situation, the 2 of them immediately walked towards the spaceship with something in their hands. They climbed onto the spaceship under tremendous gravity, and the captain immediately activated the small spaceship to begin emergency evacuation. With extraordinary courage and skills, he successfully escaped danger. The 3 survivors of the disaster all showed joyful smiles. After UV disinfection, they finally returned to the spacecraft. All the crew members applauded the captain's actions, but when he arrived alone in the hallway of the spaceship, the captain's palms trembled with fear. At the same time, extraterrestrial crystals are still feeding back to the Mozart lobule, but scientists have not received any useful clues at all. But just as they were at a loss for extraterrestrial research, the man looked at the report in his hand and suddenly understood something. Originally, aliens used a replay format to transmit messages, and humans only needed to find content they had not heard. On the other hand, several crew members were discussing the next steps of negotiating with aliens. Unexpectedly, the woman suddenly felt a strong discomfort. He pushed away the copper plate inquiring about the situation, but then it changed under the gaze of everyone. A strange red plate grew on the woman's neck, but then her spine crawled out of her body. Surprisingly, women have been infected by extraterrestrial organisms, and this airborne virus has already infected everyone. It turned out that a day ago, a woman mutated in front of everyone. After being shocked, the crew immediately took the woman to the emergency room for examination. Surprisingly, the sober woman asked everyone to throw it out of the spaceship. This eerie scene immediately jumped on the crew, and they then realized that it might have been infected by an alien organism. However, the chubby guy who had explored asteroids was criticized by his companions. The curly-haired girl suspected that this extraterrestrial creature was brought by the chubby guy, but the man argued that everything he brought back had been disinfected. The angry captain immediately spoke up to stop the argument between the two, and then he went back to take a nap, only to be awakened by the sudden shaking. The woman walked quickly to the command room, but many meteorite fragments appeared in front of the spaceship. The captain immediately decided to manually control the interstellar spacecraft, and several crew members quickly fixed themselves on chairs. The captain, who was ready, began piloting the spacecraft, but some small fragments still collided with the spacecraft. The captain carefully bypassed his head, and the fate of the crew was enormous, all of which was now handed over to their captain. And the captain, facing this meteorite belt, could only try to avoid the unprotected spacecraft as much as possible, and was once again hit by the meteorite. But as the captain continued to fly forward, the deputy promptly reminded him that a huge meteorite had appeared ahead. The captain complained that he had not seen it at all, and the spaceship was immediately hit by another meteorite. The captain suddenly called for his assistant to come and help, and then left the cockpit without waiting for him to come. Under the questioning of the crew, did the captain actually say that he was blind? The ship then conducted a simple examination of his eyes and, while analyzing the captain's illness, looked inside. The sharp captain immediately knew that he had also been infected by extraterrestrial creatures. Then they woke up a biologist from the hibernation chamber, and in just a moment, he confirmed that pathogen 0 was Xiaopang. Report in detail to the man about logging into the asteroid, and the biologist then discovers extraterrestrial creatures in his blood. After the man finishes speaking, he takes off his protective helmet. It turned out that from the moment he was awakened, he had also been infected, but the seriously ill woman miraculously recovered afterwards. And just as his companions were simply celebrating for him, a huge red spot grew on the woman's neck, and then a strange scene occurred at the beginning. Biologists proposed a plan to eliminate everything, including more than a dozen awakened personnel. The self-blaming chubby suggested that he become a guinea pig and develop an antidote, but the hopeless captain asked the crew to prepare a last word for their family. Biologists extracted Xiaopang's antibodies and developed a preliminary understanding of the poison. Without hesitation, Xiaopang injected himself with a body antidote, which later killed an alien virus during observation. And just as Xiaopang was grateful that everyone had a way out, the biologist injected himself directly into it. However, then he felt something was wrong, as the antidote accelerated the growth of extraterrestrial viruses. The man handed the experimental notes to the nervous little chubby, and immediately locked himself in the isolation compartment. He asked the little chubby to press the button and exile it into space. However, the kind little chubby couldn't do anything at all. The helpless man could only insult the other person and let them take action. And just as Xiaopang endured his grief and pressed the red button, the open isolation compartment directly sucked the man out. Little Pang, who never gave up, continued to study men's artificial intelligence experiments. Later, he rushed to urge time to come. Unexpectedly, Little Pang accidentally developed an antidote. However, at this point, the captain had already begun to gather everyone to enter the isolation cabin, and just as everyone was ready to die, artificial intelligence arrived in time, saying that a new situation had been discovered. Originally, this extraterrestrial virus was afraid of gamma rays, and they only needed to fly to nearby Sirius to find sufficient gamma-ray spacecraft, and then began to travel to their destination. After everything was ready to continue, they opened the lookout and bathed in gamma rays. Under the strong white light, everyone crouched down. The spaceship carried everyone away from Sirius, and everyone finally solved the extraterrestrial virus in their bodies. The artificial intelligence reported that there were no more extraterrestrial creatures in the spaceship, but then revealed the side effects of gamma-ray sterilization. Xiaopang blamed himself for his own mistake that led to the sacrifice of the biologist, while the captain comforted him by finding an antidote that saved everyone. However, what was unexpected was that the captain who woke up from the hibernation module again found a bloody hand tapping the glass of his hibernation module. The woman who walked out of the hibernation pod discovered blood all over the ground, and just as he found an injured crew member, the other party claimed that extraterrestrial creatures were hunting humans. At this moment, the captain seemed to have discovered something, but then he saw another crew member on the spaceship. However, as the two of them helped the injured woman towards the medical room, the injured woman was unexpectedly captured by a strange object. The two then found the other surviving crew members on the spacecraft, and the captain continued to lead them to hunt down extraterrestrial creatures. But when the crowd arrived at the corner of the corridor, the last crew member of the team was suddenly taken away. However, the other few people were completely unaware. The alarm on the spaceship suddenly rang incessantly, and the man at the end was also silently dragged away. His screams attracted the cheers of his companions. In just a moment, another crew member was dragged away. The frightened woman frantically designed the hallways on both sides, and the screaming curly-haired sister was also attacked by extraterrestrial creatures. The surviving humans were now only the two of them. The frightened woman continued to craze, and the helpless captain finally pressed the shadow on the side. It was only after the door of the isolation compartment closed that the woman with a blood-stained face ran over. However, the next second, extraterrestrial creatures hidden in the dark directly attacked it. Surprisingly, these were all events that happened in the captain's nightmare. Artificial intelligence analysis is caused by the leakage of electricity from the sleep module, and if they forcibly wake up the captain, brain death may occur. At the same time, the dormant captain entered another dream where he was celebrating his daughter's birthday. However, the woman then opened her birthday cake and unexpectedly hidden a red button in the middle. Just as the stunned woman was about to say something, a huge alien spaceship appeared in the sky. The woman bid farewell to her family in pain and then pressed the red button without hesitation. And the woman woke up from the hibernation pod, but he fell into another dream. The woman saw a group of companions who had died in space before, and it was this air disaster that made him make the decision to sacrifice half of his people to save the other half. In the past decade, women have been repeating this nightmare every day, and this time he is no longer afraid. He still chose the original decision because in the situation at that time, he avoided the complete downfall of the army. The woman who untied her knot finally woke up from the nightmare. At this time, the interstellar spacecraft was still flying forward. Artificial intelligence reported to the captain and discovered a new situation. An alien signal appeared on a planet similar to Earth, and what's even more unexpected is that there is also an alien signal tower on this planet. The captain led several crew members to immediately land on an outer planet and begin exploring. However, something eerie was staring at him below the ground. Several people found an alien signal tower in the deep mountains and forests, and the captain immediately discovered something strange. There seemed to be no trace of animals on this alien planet, and the signal tower existed for over 10,000 years. The captain then discovered a new situation, where the signal tower here has subtle differences from those on Earth. It turned out that a few crystals were missing from this signal tower, and the man stayed alone to guard the camp. And the captain and the other two went to search for the missing signal tower crystal, and they found fragments not far from the camp. However, the weight of this thing is actually even lighter than paper. At the same time, Xiaopeng, who was responsible for exploring animals and plants, was reporting the situation to the captain. Unexpectedly, an alien creature crawled onto his arm. At this moment, the captain also heard a scene from the communicator, and Xiaopeng was only pricked by a branch, which seemed to be no big deal. Before taking a few steps, Xiaopeng collapsed in pain on the ground. When the woman lifted his pants, she noticed a noticeable mutation in Xiaopeng's calf area. Her companion immediately annotated him with an antidote. The painful little chubby boy screamed while his entire calf turned black. On the other hand, the man in charge of guarding the signal tower also noticed something unusual. Someone in the tower called out his name, and that person was not someone else, but his own shadow. Suddenly, the shadow extended its arm and pulled him directly into the signal tower. But at night, the two captains who returned found that the man had disappeared. However, just as they anxiously called out each other's names, the man unexpectedly walked out from another direction. At this moment, the crew also drove over with their injured chubby body. The captain immediately contacted artificial intelligence and prepared to evacuate the outer planet. Surprisingly, the female crew member discovered something chasing him below the ground. The captain, who realized something was wrong, shouted out first, urging everyone to run quickly, but the man watched helplessly as the monster emerged from the ground. This alien creature is countless times larger than what little Peng encountered. Perhaps smelling other odors, extraterrestrial creatures didn't harm the stunned man in the first place. His companions took the opportunity to drop him to the ground, and the captain shouted for him to run over quickly. At this moment, more extraterrestrial creatures rushed towards this place from the ground, so everyone finally entered the spaceship at the last moment. After they panicked and fastened their seatbelts, the captain immediately piloted the spaceship away from the planet. After being disinfected by ultraviolet radiation, everyone finally entered the interstellar spaceship with the injured chubby guy. However, surprisingly, a palm-sized alien creature slipped into the spaceship. At the same time, the artificial intelligence that was chatting with the captain malfunctioned and disappeared with just a few flashes. And the simulated gravity in this room also disappeared at the same time, and the anxious captain immediately shouted to notify the other crew members. As the woman rushed over, the gravity instrument in the room exploded, and the woman who arrived also noticed the situation inside. However, just as he picked up the nearby fire extinguisher and opened the garage door, the weightless crew member floated into the air like the captain. As the captain exclaimed in surprise, the woman directly turned on the fire extinguisher, but then he crashed into the wall behind him, and the gravity inside the room also recovered. The captain immediately ran to check the woman's injuries. After confirming that she was not in any serious condition, he remembered to call for artificial intelligence on the spaceship, but there was no artificial intelligence around him. The crew began to inspect the damaged gravity reaction and then discovered the palm-sized alien creature. The woman concluded that it had bitten the parts of the equipment, while the crew on the other side could not repair the artificial intelligence at all. Therefore, he suggested that it would be better to forcibly restart and restore the captain, but refused on the grounds that it would eliminate artificial intelligence memory. But just as the two of them were discussing what to do, artificial intelligence suddenly reappeared. The captain happily greeted the artificial intelligence, but suddenly said that upon detecting a fire on the spacecraft, the captain immediately instructed the crew to manually check what was happening. At this time, artificial intelligence claimed that fires were happening everywhere on the spacecraft, while the results of the deputy's inspection were completely normal. At this point, they also understood that the damage to artificial intelligence was quite severe. A piercing first-level alarm sounded in the cabin, and the artificial intelligence initiated a command to return to Earth. The shocked captain immediately ordered him to cancel the return journey, but the artificial intelligence disappeared from his sight. At this time, the interstellar spacecraft is undergoing detachment from its mother body, and their cabins are immediately flying towards Earth after detachment. The disconnection of artificial intelligence leaves them helpless at this moment, and everyone will gradually die within a few weeks. The helpless captain suddenly came up with a solution. The captain wanted to manually pilot the spacecraft to dock with the mother body. The spacecraft flew towards the forward mother body at maximum speed, and at this time, the deputy was also reporting the docking situation to the captain. The spacecraft completed docking with the captain's superb driving skills, and the crew immediately fastened the connection buckle between the spacecraft and the mother body. However, surprisingly, the last buckle failed to connect due to a short circuit. The captain who learned about this matter immediately decided to go and solve the problem. After putting on his spacesuit, he arrived at the location where the buckle was short-circuited. The nervous captain forcefully pulled out the short-circuited part, and the crew also closed the connecting buckle after receiving the signal. Fortunately, this last buckle has finally been successfully connected. When the captain who received the message was about to return to the spaceship, his deputy said that the spaceship started a space jump 1 minute later, and the sudden vibration directly threw the captain away from the spaceship. Just when he thought the towing rope would break, the rope was firmly fixed on the spaceship. The frightened captain told the crew that he was fine. However, the next second, the superluminal jump unexpectedly started at this moment, and a blue energy instantly enveloped the interstellar spacecraft. Then, before the captain could react, the interstellar spacecraft activated the space jump and left here. The captain who woke up found that he could no longer see the interstellar spacecraft. At this moment, the crew members were fiercely discussing whether to go back to rescue him, and in the end, everyone handed over the decision-making power to the co-captain. At this point, the captain had almost run out of oxygen, but just as he was ready to die, the interstellar spacecraft unexpectedly jumped back into space again. But when the captain was so happy that he thought he was saved, the spaceship quickly flew away from him. In the vast expanse of space, humans appear very small, and it is even more difficult for crew members to find them than to look for a needle in a haystack. And just as the captain was about to fall into despair, he took out a pair of pliers and without hesitation pulled out the few remaining oxygen valves. He then used the current from his spacesuit to ignite the oxygen, and a blue flame instantly drifted in the surrounding space. The movement here really caught the attention of the crew. The captain was then returned to the interstellar spacecraft by everyone, and the crew also found a way for artificial intelligence to recover. The energy that should have been given to artificial intelligence was diverted, but when the nearest curly-haired joint wanted to turn off this device, the spacecraft received a system warning that the energy was about to break through, and the fire extinguisher that bounced off happened to break the equipment control panel. However, this kind of damage cannot be repaired within a week. Unable to do anything, curly-haired Jia reported the situation to the deputy captain and then forcefully pushed open the door of this energy room. The co-captain who was still arriving ordered him to come out immediately, but the curly-haired sister, who knew there was not enough time, unplugged the energy tube. The woman unplugged 4 tubes in an unprotected state. However, he returned to his hometown in the northwest due to exposure to radiation and hatred. At this point, artificial intelligence has also returned to normal. Several crew members were grateful that everyone had survived, but just as the arriving captain comforted his shipowner, a man slipped into the laboratory, started his computer, and then retrieved a brain analysis file. Without hesitation, he deleted the file. Turns out he was already possessed by aliens. The man's eyes were pierced by 2 pointed objects, which then pierced directly into the bearded man's eyes. The bearded man was thus recalled by the aliens. It turned out that Dashin, who had been possessed by aliens a few minutes ago, entered the power room and pretended to casually ask how to counterattack the aliens. However, as a hacker, the bearded man revealed a top secret to him. It turned out that their interstellar spacecraft could launch laser cannons and could detonate the alien planet with just one strike. Then, Dashin attacked the bearded man who wanted to leave. Then came the opening scene, where the spacecraft was about to enter the dark matter region of Canis Major, and the spacecraft was piloted by the captain himself. The interstellar spacecraft entered the area at a slow speed, but fortunately, everything around it was normal except for darkness. The two of them who returned to the lounge were about to rest when 2 beams of laser quickly flew over from outside the spaceship. The panicked two immediately reported the situation to the captain, but the captain who walked to the window did not notice anything. At this time, the interstellar spacecraft is still slowly passing through the dark matter region. On the other side, the bearded man who woke up just wanted to enter the power room again, but he didn't expect his fingerprint recognition to be occupied. Huzinin found out the location of the other party through inquiry, and the man who occupied his authority was none other than Deshawn, who complained that the laser cannon he fired did not destroy the interstellar spacecraft. However, in just a moment, all the lighting equipment on the spacecraft was turned off. At this time, artificial intelligence seems to be particularly abnormal. While its programming data is problematic, the management of interstellar spacecraft is also unable to operate normally. What's even worse is that dark matter outside the spacecraft is gradually infiltrating, and Deshawn, who is in a chaotic state, takes the opportunity to ask for artificial intelligence to restart. He actually agrees to Deshawn and then finds the control console to ban artificial intelligence. But everyone on the other side also discovered the deleted and hidden medical examination report. At this moment, everyone finally understood that the mountain had long been controlled by aliens. But as the captain ran towards the cockpit in a panic, the alien-possessed mountain once again wanted to control others. The angry woman pulled out the nearby fire axe and then desperately tried to smash the glass of the cabin door. After extracting his memories, Dashin turned to look at the captain, while the boatman who was hiding on the side came up and grabbed his neck. The co-captain took the opportunity to control Dashin to the door, but just as he opened the nearby access control room, the captain immediately ran in. Despite their struggles, he ran straight to his fallen companion and then pulled the unconscious crew member out of here. The captain turned his head and pulled the boatman out, but the clever mountain immediately closed the hatch. A piercing alarm suddenly sounded inside the spacecraft, indicating that the temperature of the particle accelerator had risen to a dangerous level. If it not only cools quickly, it may explode at any time. At this moment, the little chubby couple in the laboratory also received a message. However, when Xiaopeng wanted to go out of the laboratory, the two of them were scared back into the room by the heat outside. Xiaopeng then found a set of protective clothing and put it on, then walked into the power room that was about to explode without hesitation. But when he just restarted the cooling system, Dashin, who was staying in the command room, immediately shut down the system remotely. The unbelievable little chubby had no idea what was happening, and just as he turned on the cooling system switch again, the wall switch automatically turned off again. Angry little chubby complained about what was going on, while the big mountain on the other side closely monitored his movements. Helpless, Xiaopeng took out a flagon then, after quickly starting the switch, punctured the data cable. At this moment, Xiaopeng was struck by a strong electric current and couldn't speak. His companions who arrived later also discovered Xiaopeng, who had fainted on the ground. The big mountain in the command room couldn't turn off the cooling system at this moment, but he quickly came up with a new solution. Dashin found the central processing system of the spacecraft and then started programming the system for extraterrestrial technology changes. At this time, a dark red society area appeared on the control panel, and Dashin immediately ordered a change in the spacecraft's course. The captain opened a crew member's hibernation pod at this moment, and the woman in the hibernation pod woke up a few minutes later. However, the big mountain in the control room also knew what he was going to do at this moment. The captain wanted to rely on this engineer to regain control of the interstellar spacecraft, but surprisingly, Dashin ordered the interruption of the oxygen supply in the hibernation module. The female engineer immediately felt difficulty breathing. The anxious captain brought an axe and desperately smashed the hatch cover, but the outer bulletproof glass couldn't be opened at all. After the captain struck continuously for more than 10 minutes, the woman in the hibernation chamber died from suffocation. The captain, while feeling sad, decided to go and meet everyone first, but the sudden shaking startled his cleverness. Originally, Dashin had already controlled the interstellar spacecraft to penetrate deep into the dark matter region, and their destination turned out to be a black hole. Upon hearing these words, the captain immediately decided to evacuate all crew members, and their target was the entire planet not far from the black hole. But when the other crew members boarded the small spaceship to prepare for evacuation, the captain got into a fight with the chasing mountain. The captain who ran out immediately called for artificial intelligence, but he still didn't want to give up the interstellar spaceship. At this time, the spaceship was getting closer and closer to the black hole. The chasing mountain actually grabbed the captain's neck, and the captain struggled desperately to break free from the constraints. However, the towering mountain pushed him aside. The captain used his phone to distance the two and then punched the mountain in the face, but the other person once again grabbed his neck. As the captain was about to hate the Northwest, the awakened artificial intelligence saved him in time. Dashin fainted from an artificial intelligence shock and fell to the ground, while the spaceship was about to fly into a black hole in a few minutes. The interstellar spacecraft then used extraterrestrial material from within the mountains to supply the cave, and the spacecraft itself finally broke free from the constraints of the black hole. Everyone on the small spaceship laughed happily, and when the crew gathered again, they were about to land on an alien planet called Election Star. The captain piloted a small spaceship to land on the alien planet, and as the spaceship flew through the fog towards the forest, a huge alien crystal tower came into view. In order not to disturb the other party, they landed in a forest. However, there are still 13 kilometers left from the destination here. The captain set off after leaving personnel to oversee the spacecraft. After walking for a day and a night, several people finally arrived at the place, and the first thing they saw was the rugged mountain ranges of strange rocks. The captain and his companions then climbed into a cave, where a primitive weapon was still placed. The captain cautiously explored the cave, but when the two of them entered, they found that the furniture in the cave was quite rudimentary, and there was no indication of anything technologically advanced around them. But when the captain and his companions wanted to explore deeper inside, extraterrestrial creatures seemed to notice them breaking in. The two of them were afraid and searching for something to protect themselves. Then, an alien slowly walked in, with chicken-like claws and sheep-like hooves. Just when the captain didn't know what to do, the alien opened up bat-like wings again. The captain who saw this was so shocked that he couldn't speak, but then he cautiously communicated with the aliens, who couldn't understand human language at all. And just as the captain tried to touch the aliens, they were so scared that they ran back to their lair. At this moment, a mysterious device on the side made a sound, and the captain and his companions were so frightened that they quickly looked over. The device revealed information, but it was surprising. It turns out that for the past century, he has been receiving signals from humans, but the real Big Canis is still far from here. He claimed to be the path of the sage and the Starman's wisdom field. The Starman had already occupied this planet 50 years ago, and he advised humans not to contact each other, as they only brought destruction to other planets. At this time, the artificial intelligence on the spacecraft learned about the ruling territory of the Great Canis people, and the existing 336 galaxies were actually increasing. The specific location of Canis Major is 1 billion light-years away from this place, yet Earth is actually the next target to be destroyed. At this time, the interstellar spacecraft is still hovering in this galaxy, while the people on board have extracted extraterrestrial technology from the body of the mountains. This technology is more advanced than artificial intelligence by 100 times compared to today's Earth. They are trying to rewrite this extraterrestrial bug, but this extraterrestrial technology cannot invade or rewrite it at all. On the other hand, while the captain and his companions continued to explore the forest, they saw shocking scenes. The great canine man devoured the creatures on this planet, and the captain immediately thought of joining forces with all his allies to resist. However, it takes them a year to reach the other planet, and the Earth is currently at risk of being destroyed at any time. At the same time, the left-behind personnel of the small spacecraft suddenly heard a sound, and then some sounds came from the top of the spacecraft. The crew who looked up discovered a strange alien. But when the man reported the situation to the captain, and the aliens also jumped off the top of the spaceship. The man ran straight to the driver's seat, ready to start the spaceship, and the flames emitted by the spaceship directly melted the aliens. The captain then ordered artificial intelligence to destroy the crystal tower, and when some were ready, they fired laser cannons. The laser shot from the interstellar spacecraft destroyed the crystal tower with one shot. At this moment, the interstellar war against the invasion of the General Election Star has officially begun. But when everyone returned to the interstellar spacecraft, the first level alarm on the spacecraft suddenly sounded. At this moment, they wanted to launch a superluminal flight, but there was no time for the captain to nervously prepare for the unknown situation, while multiple spacecraft of the Great Canis flew over their heads. At this moment, the crowd had no idea what the other party wanted to do, but in front of them, they could see that their targets were Sachai and Captain Starstone. Several people witnessed the destruction of this planet by the other party with their own eyes. The first season of Extraterrestrial Life Commentary ends here. The captain is starring Katie Sackhoff, who has previously starred in The Mandalorians and the Space Fortress Karataga. The story begins with one day when humans were visited by aliens, and then with the concept of peaceful negotiations, interstellar spacecraft were sent to the alien planet. However, they encountered a series of strange and eerie stories along the way. The ending of the film leaves a suspense, as the story between humans and the Great Canis continues. Thank you for your support. The exciting science fiction commentary is still ongoing.